Hello, this is Derwin Banks from the Linseed farm. Um, as you can see by the title, I'm a linseed farmer. My journey with linseed has been amazing, and I've been doing it for 17 years, and it's taught me a lot about fats. That's lipids. Lipids are fats. You need to have the right fat in your body to operate properly, and I was interested this week to hear a National Union of Teachers, or one of the teachers' unions, talking about their findings, that they're finding younger and younger children affected by mental health problems. And I'm reaching out to all you teachers to help try and do something about this. You're in the front line, and what I'm going to do is tell you some information, and I hope you might take it to heart and try and use your influence to get children to eat a little bit better. Now, when we're talking about mental health, we're talking about the function of the brain. The brain is 60% fat. So in order for it to function properly, you've got to put the right raw materials into your body. The function of your brain requires cells, cell membranes that are flexible. They need to be flexible so they can communicate all of the messages of life. For when you stub your toe, your brain knows immediately about it. It's the same kind of thing with all sorts of intelligence and communications in your brain. Thousands of millions of them go on all the time, involuntary and voluntary ones. And you have to get the right fats in your body to enable that to happen. Now, what's happening? Over the last 60 years, our mental health problems have been deteriorating, or we've been getting more of them. And we're now saying something like 25% of children and people, all people, are suffering from just 25% of people are suffering from mental health problems. That's identifiable ones, which can range from dyslexia, ADHD, schizophrenia, all the kind of mental health issues, depression, that have a name tag to them. That's 25% of the people. So I was speaking at the Real Farming Conference in Oxford with Richard Young, who's a policy director of the Sustainable Food Trust, and we were talking about understanding fats. Richard did a brilliant talk about the saturated fats, and he mentioned how in the last 60 years what we've done is we've been getting our fat from rainforests instead of grass, and that has helped this mental health problem along. And one of the things he said was that, for instance, the increase in rape fields as well go towards that. And I agree that you could say that the increase in rape planting over the last 50 or 60 years has roughly corresponded with the decrease in our mental health problems. So, fats. Why? What are you're going to ask me, what about this? What can I do? Well, the issue is so much junk fat has been put into the brain. This 60% of fat you've got up there, the junk fats are things like margarine, all the kinds of spreads, all the manufactured fats, all of the oils that are roughly liquid at room temperature, that you shouldn't cook with. What you should cook with are fats that are solid at room temperature. They don't do you any harm. And what's happening in schools, I think you'll agree, is there's fish and chips being sold or used as part of the lunch. The chips will be cooked in oil. The crisps this week, there's been information in the paper about crisps and all the cancerous substances they contain, and the reason is because they're cooked in oil and not in fat, in saturated fat, which is not harmed by heat. So you can see there's a growing body of evidence that when you use oil at high temperature, you cause it to give off not only cancer-causing substances, but it doesn't do the job it's supposed to do in your body, which is to build those flexible cells. So I'm reaching out to all of you teachers and all of you people that have got any influence on how children are fed. And I'm not discounting the children. I think all you young people, if you look at this, you can use your pester power to get your parents to make sure they cook properly in saturated fat if they're doing any cooking and not cooking in oil. So the responsibility is on all of us and all of you teachers to try and do this. It's us at the bottom end. We can use our economic power to avoid food that is giving us problems. So these are like McDonald's. They proudly say in some of their adverts that they use oil and all of their recycled oil goes into their lorries. Well, they shouldn't be doing that at all. They should be cooking in lard or dripping. I ask you, why would you want to put oil on a beef burger to cook it? It's got its own saturated fat in it, and if you need to have any more fat, you just put a bit of lard on there, or you save the lard that you retrieve from all the cooking of the meat that you do. You can use that. That's good fat, and that's what we mean when we say we've gone from getting our fat from grass to getting our fat from rainforests. And one little way that you could maybe help get this message to young children, I think youngsters are interested in orangutans and they're interested in the rainforest, get them just to look at the ingredients lists on so many things. You'll find there's lots of palm oil in there. So the palm oil, every time you eat something with palm oil in, you're helping to kill an orangutan. You're also helping to change the atmosphere, because a lot of the palm oil comes from places like Indonesia and Malaysia, where they destroy rainforests by burning them and chopping all the trees down, destroying all the animals and destroying the way of life of the local people that live there. Huge companies doing all of that stuff, and they're putting this palm oil into food that you're eating, and it's dangerous for you. So that's what I'm asking all of you teachers. Think about that. Think about whether you can reach out to your children, show them an example, cook properly yourself, show them the example of the rainforests and how what they do, what they eat, is actually affecting the environment. And also one of my friends that runs the Real Farming Conference in Oxford, Colin Tudge, he said this year that what we should be thinking about is, rather than just talking about the environment, we should talk about the biosphere. And what he means by that is that everything we do, what we eat, what we grow, all the things that we do in life affect the biosphere. So we're all interconnected. So if we want a better biosphere, the first thing we can do is use our influence to eat properly that keeps us healthier. And of course, if we're healthier, we're not going to be having a lot of drugs. And of course, drugs, the body doesn't want a lot of these drugs in it, and it pees them out into the environment. And a little while ago, they did some tests on starlings, and they discovered that a lot of them are on Prozac. Well, Prozac is not a naturally occurring substance, so you've only got to put two and two together to work out how that happens. But once again, there's another issue. A lot of the Prozac is given to help people with stress and strain and all sorts of problems involved with life, if you like, which could all boil down to a degree of mental issues that, and I'm not excluding myself here. It's quite possible that, quite a lot of the population have various undefined and undiagnosed levels of mental health, and you as teachers are noticing that very early on in your pupils' life. So I hope that you see what I'm talking about, you get the message. I'm not a farmer just trying to sell my own product, although of course I want to sell my product, which is linseed oil. It has lots of omega-3 in. It's omega-3 that the majority of people haven't enough of in their body, and they get too much of the other one called omega-6. Omega-6 makes pro-inflammatory hormones, omega-3 anti-inflammatory ones. So you see, you're being assaulted by fats of all kinds in the wrong balance. You're cooking with them and fooling around with them, and these are basic raw materials of your life. So please, 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 everybody that can, try and use fat in a proper way for yourself. If you go into a fish and chip shop, the first thing you ask is, how do you cook them? If they cook in oil, say, I'm sorry, this is a dangerous thing to do. Cook in saturated fat, and then I'll come back to you. And you only have to ask your mother or your grandmother how they cooked, and they'll probably tell you they roasted their potatoes in lard or dripping. And it was a valuable resource that they kept when they cooked their joint. They had it when they wanted to do any cooking later on. And look at biscuits. That's all cooked with rubbish fat. You'll have margarines in there and so on. So you want to buy biscuits that are cooked with butter, Scottish shortbread, something like that. And make your own biscuits. You can put butter in them. If you can make your own food, make your own little snack that the children can take to school, anything is better than just buying something that's manufactured and abuses oil in that process. Well, I won't go on anymore, but I will just appeal once more again to all your teachers who I hope will be viewing this to say, use your influence with your children and yourself to try and get this fat issue resolved. And if you would like to look at our talks, the talk that Richard and I gave at the Real Farming Conference, if you go to my website, and in fact I'll put a little link to it, you can hear Richard talking about the fat from grass and the fat from rainforests, and you can then hear me talking a little bit more about the omega-3s and the 6s and the real importance of getting these fats right for the whole of our health system, not only our mental health, but our physical health too also depends on us having the right kind of fats in our bodies. Anyway, I won't go on anymore. I've probably gone on too much, but I'd like to have some response. If you think that I've been making some sensible suggestions, please get in touch with me. Okay, thank you very much indeed.